Today I'll show you 3 ways to paint a simple yet compelling composition. Hi, I'm Tricia Selgrath. Thanks so much for joining me for artzXpress. This is Twin Lakes, Colorado, and I chose this photo for its simplicity. I'm working on an 8x10 wooden panel, which I have taped the edges just to keep them clean. And I'm sketching with vine charcoal. And of course this has been sped up quite a bit. One of the challenges that I have is that I'm trying to keep my head out of the way of the camera, which makes me look at my work in a weird way. So I've got all my palette out there. I've labeled the colors. You can pause to look at that up close if you need to. And I'm simply laying in background color. The lake, the water, is a reflection of the sky, so of course it's going to be blue, but it gets a little bit more interesting than that too. There are other things that get reflected in it. I'll be building this, so right now I'm just kind of getting basic colors down. Now in that background, for beginners, remember your background is going to be a lighter hue. The further away it gets, the lighter it will be. That creates the illusion of atmosphere. So all of my colors have been toned down, even the ones that look brighter because they're in the sunlight, like that field. That was one thing I loved about this photo, that dappled sunlight on this landscape. Now, another reason why I chose that photo was that it didn't have any big trees in the foreground. So we only have little trees that I'll show you how to do little dabs of paint. But, trees are a little bit more complicated, so we'll leave them for a later lesson. So you can see as that color comes forward, it gets a little bit brighter, darker, and the foreground in this is actually in shadow. So the foreground's going to have a lot of dark blues, purples. This is Colorado, so it is that kind of sagey looking scrub brush. It has a bluish tint to it and a purplish tint, kind of a lavender and smoky green. So I have up on the sky kind of smoothed it out, and now I'm laying in layers of clouds. Keep in mind that when you're doing clouds aren't just white. Even though they look like they're white, they have a little bit of yellow and a little bit of color in them. And I have heightened the color a little bit from the photo because I have the artistic license to do that. And I'm just bringing in a little bit more pinks into the sky and oranges. And frankly, a lot of those colors were there. It's just my camera doesn't always show that. When you take a picture of a sunset and you're disappointed. I'm not a great photographer. I'm kind of a point and shoot. So sometimes I don't always capture that optimal light. But I do remember that things are more colorful than what the photo is showing. Sorry about my head getting in the way. I noticed also with the lighting that I have that it is reflective, and it makes it even more difficult for me to see the painting. Someday I'm going to have a perfect setup. I've tried a lot of different things. So even on your clouds, you're going to have clouds that are farther away are going to be closer in tone. Lights and darks are going to be closer together. And as the clouds come forward, they're going to be, to have more contrast of lights and darks. That's just one of the ways that you can tell that something's closer or further away. And for me, doing clouds is a matter of building color. And so I just put a lot of colors on there, soften them, add some more, soften. And it can be tempting to make those clouds darker because my photo actually shows them as being pretty dark. But sometimes you just can't believe your camera. And you're going to have to kind of lighten those up just so you get the effect that you want, where those clouds are receding back there. Okay. You'll see that I use several different brushes, and in my colors, those are hues. I often will use my fingers, which is not a good thing. So I don't want to, use a lot of cadmium and cobalt. I do have all those colors, and I do use them on occasion. But I think especially for if you're beginning, just go with hues and don't worry about those heavy metals in the beginning. You have enough going on that you don't need to be worried about those. I'm using oils, but this could just as easily be acrylic. Now, when I started the painting, that burnt sienna color that I tend to put on my landscapes, the burnt sienna color over the wood was acrylic. And sometimes I'll do a full underpainting in acrylic before I go to oils. I'm trying to get the dappled sunlight from the clouds in there. And it's important that when you put the shadows in, you don't make the shadows too dark, but also that you soften the edges. You want, nice soft edges back there. Now that little part, it comes forward, and after I put all those little trees in, I ended up not liking that and kind of just loosely stroked over it. You want the illusion of it, not every little detail in there. So again, working on the balancing the light and the shadow in those distant mountains, making sure that they're receding. That one mountain is really only visible by the darker clouds behind it. And those mountains go up into, the red rock. Okay, there's a few little trees around the water's edge down there. I've got a filbert brush, a variety of filberts and little flats that I use to do the detail. Now in the foreground, this was tricky. I actually redid it a few times, but and went back to my original. So this foreground is totally in shadow. But the same rules apply where you want it to be kind of lighter the further away it is, and then have more contrast as it comes forward. And from the original photo, there was a picnic table and grill that I ended up taking out of it. Sometimes things like that, sometimes they can be interesting focal points, but in this, there it is. I'm like, put it in, took it out. I just thought it was a distraction and didn't lend to the painting. And since we are focusing on basics, I thought, you know what? I don't need to go there. So here we have, I think, a nice focal point with that light field back there. Tell me below what your favorite part of this composition is. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.